Good afternoon. Welcome to Long Live Third Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., a third parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Today I read the case Citizens to Establish the Reform Party versus Priest, 926 SW2D 432, Arkansas Supreme Court, 1996. Friends, whatever day it is in your part of the world, it's a good day to advance third parties in America. So let's take advantage of this day to do exactly that. Remember the Reform Party back in the 90s? I was too young to vote in 92 when Ross Perot ran for election, but I knew one thing. He stuck out to me. I liked him. I liked him better than those other two guys. Back then, the third party vision was calling out to me. When did the third party vision call out to you, my friends? In this case, these great folks at the Reform Party in Arkansas were trying to get on the ballot in 96. But, like we've seen in many other cases, the state here refused to let them on the ballot. The bone of contention in this case was deadline dates. So let's read about it. It says, quote, "This case concerns the appellant's efforts to establish a Reform Party as a new political party in the state of Arkansas. Their objective is to fill the slate of candidates for national, state, and county offices in the 1996 general election. Arkansas law provides two means of forming a new political party. The convention process permits a political group to hold a convention for the purpose of choosing presidential and vice presidential candidates. If the candidates poll at least 3% of the vote in the general election, the candidates group is established as a political party. The petition process, which was used by these appellants, permits a political group to submit a petition to the Secretary of State declaring its intention of organizing a political party. The petition must contain the signatures of qualified electors equal in number to at least 3% of the total vote cast for office of governor and nominees for presidential electors at the last preceding election. This central issue in this case concerns the deadline by which such a petition must be filed. There are two Arkansas statutes which address the deadline, and they are in utter conflict." End quote. Friends, what do you think should be the amount of signatures required to get on a ballot in Arkansas or any state? Should it be 3%? Is it good here? Do you like this? Or should it be something different? Should it be 1%? Should it be 5%? 10%? Should it be 100 people? What should it be? That's one thing I'm wondering. What should these be? What are good ballot access laws? I like how they say utter conflict. They qualify conflict with utter. It's not just a conflict. It is an utter conflict. And as I'm reading through this case, they talk about not just two statutes, but other statutes, and then they go back to look at the history of the statute. They say that helps to find out what the government intended to do with the statutes. They are talking about how they use principles from cases to determine when laws are unclear. And they are trying to use some logic here, but our side is not going to like where it's going. The Citizens Establish Reform Party in Arkansas are arguing this law, the law they should look at is the last law, which is a law that would favor them, since that is a principle in some other cases they cite here. Unfortunately, the court here is not going to buy that because they say it wasn't that much time difference, so they're not going to be a stickler for that, but are going to find a way to marry the two positions. They would have met the deadline of one of the laws that was requiring a January 2 date, but the May 7th date they did not meet. Our friends at the Reform Party also argue judges shouldn't question why the laws were passed. They should just accept them as are. And in our Obscenity Trial podcast, Long Live the First Amendment and Free Speech podcast, that's one issue I see a lot in the trials, that the judges say they don't want to question why. They don't want to repeal a law just because it's not smart. They have to look at the law and the Constitution, those type of things. So here they're not going to go by that route. They're not going to let the Reform Party get through with this reason. They say, we still got to try to make sense of this jumbled mess. So what was the ultimate conclusion? It says, quote, in closing, we note that the relief sought by the appellants in this case is unusual. They do not wish to hold a primary. Rather, they ask that we allow them to hold a convention for the purpose of selecting candidates for the general election in November, much the way a vacancy in office is filled. Since we are holding against the appellants on the deadline question, we do not reach the issue of whether such a remedy is available. In light of Lewis versus West, SEPRA, affirmed, end quote. Unfortunately, that's not a victory for our side, but that doesn't mean we don't keep moving forward. I want to keep looking at these cases to find ways we can succeed. I want to find ways to poke holes in their arguments. I want to find ways to get to the glory of getting on a ballot so we can get votes for third parties. What do you think about when laws are confusing like this? Do you do what? What do you do? Let me know. Friends, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to keep advancing third parties here. Long live third parties. Goodbye.